Diogweave Gulera Cordia August Toffalter wrote, welcome to be my guest with me, Mary Honan, on Lir Media TV, supporting the Samaritans, Limerick and Tipperary. And my lovely guest today is Rahima Ahmed, all the way from Limerick.
Yeah.
Salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam. It's such a great honor to be here, actually.
Oh, it's indeed, it's actually our honor, Rahima. Rahima recently won a very prestigious award here in Limerick. Tell us about it, Rahima.
Well, it's an engagement award which was given by Engineers Island Thomond region. And I have been part of the Engineers Island Thomond region committee for the past 3 years, since 2017 or 2018, I'm not really sure. And then we opened a young engineer search in Thomond region. I think it was 2019, end of 2019. So I became the first chairperson of the young engineer search in Thomond region. And I know I'm being told that I'm one of the co-founders since I was the 3 people who came up with it, but basically our chairperson of the senior committee at that time, he is the founder of everything. So he came with a full package to me. So I really don't like to say I'm a founder because it was already made. So
You're a founder member in that you were part of the trio that started it off, the first 3 members. But Rahima, it's safe to say engineering is not it's not an area of research that a vast amount of women flood to become engineers. The sexy kind of subjects that girls tend to go for are medicine or law or subjects like that, science, not even science subjects. There's a difficulty in getting girls, not so much now, but there was a difficulty in getting girls into the STEM subjects.
Yeah.
What was it, number one, that drew you to engineering? Why engineering?
So
were you always the child that was fixing things, breaking them to fix them? I was, but I never went down the engineering route.
I used to break them. Now the fixing part was a little problem because I like breaking them so I can see how something works, but I wouldn't know how to fix it back. So, but I come from a family which is full of science people. So my mom was a nurse midwife. My granddad also used to work in a hospital. I think he was a paramedic, and everyone in our family. So I'm the first grandchild in our family. And I'm the only child in my family, like my mom and my dad.
So you're an only child?
Yeah.
I'm an only child. And my mom, like your mom, was an only child.
Oh, no, my mom wasn't the only child.
I thought you said your mom was an only child.
No, my mom, there are like 13 of them. Yeah, so there are like 8 from one mom and, no, I think 9 from one mom and 3 from, yeah. So I don't know, 13, 12, something like that, 11, I don't know. Yeah, but so when I basically didn't know what I wanted to do. But when I was in primary, I wanted to be a doctor. Then I wanted to be a gynecologist. So my mom had 4 miscarriages. So for me, I wanted to be a gynecologist so I could help her, like, because I was like, what are these doctors doing? Why is my mom not getting any other child apart from me? So, but then when I was in high school, I did only 1 year of high school. So that was first class. That was in Kenya. And then we moved to Hungary. And I did language for 1 year. Then I did 1 year of, not really 1 year, it was just probably from September to December. Then we moved to Ireland. So it was like 4 months of first year. And when I moved to Ireland, at that time I was 18 already. And all the schools in Ireland didn't really take students who are over 18, like, you know, to join high school first. Like, so there was a school which was Youthridge. It's part of Beatles. Yeah. Yeah, and they took me in fifth and sixth year. So I never did one, two, three, four. I just went fifth and sixth directly. And I am good at math. I didn't like biology because I'm not a fan of reading at all, at all. I know like reading is a big part of us, but I prefer like listening than reading. So I am very good at calculating because like you can wake me up in the middle of the night and I can do a calculation for you. That's how much I love maths, but I wasn't good at the biology side. And being honest, I like my family also still wanted me to go to the medicine side, like, but I was like, I'm good at maths, I'm good at physics and chemistry, but I wasn't sure still what am I supposed to do with that. So I Googled it. This is very weird because I know most people are motivated or have a role model who is an engineer. But for me is I Googled it and I was like, which career can I take if you're good at maths, physics, and chemistry? And it said all types of engineering. And at first I wanted to do petroleum engineering. And then my mom was like, do you know that you can't do petroleum engineering everywhere in the world? You just have to go to specific countries that produce petroleum. So that's not a good idea. So, and then I saw civil, which was like you can work in an office, you can work at site, you can work anywhere. So it does, you don't need to go to the site to be a civil engineer. Like, then I went ahead and I was like, okay, then I'm going to do civil engineer. And being honest, when I started doing civil, when I wanted to do civil engineer, I didn't have the support that people have. So we come from an Arab African family where a girl doing civil engineer doesn't really sit well.
In
Like,
your culture.
yeah, like you going to site, all they think about, because when you talk about civil engineer, they think that you have to go to work on a site, which you don't really have to go to work on a site, but that's how everyone sees civil engineer. Like,
And would you, if you had to work on a site, if the job required you to work on the site, would you have a problem with it? No?
I wouldn't really, but I feel like
Your family might.
no, not really.
No.
Like for now, I think they do understand it, but for me, it's just I'm not a fan of the site. I like drawing. So every time I think of the site, I think of all those noises, and I don't like
Oh,
noises.
and it's cold and wet.
Yeah, and the cold, and when I'm like, because my when I was in college, my lecturer used to say like, when we go out for surveying, he used to be like, "Don't complain about the cold. You have to work in the cold." I'm like, "No, that will not be me. I don't like cold. I don't like noise."
You're in the
So,
wrong country, Rahima. I don't think I was born for this cold either.
I
Just
think no one is born for this cold or even the rain.
other, I can cope with the cold. I can't cope with the rain at all. But you know, you were talking there about the difficulties. I mean, you came to this country with relatively little English, and
Oh no, I was
and
good with
you did a year, did you, in Holland? Is that what
no
you
in Hungary.
in Hungary? You did
Yeah.
a year in languages in Hungary,
Yeah.
and but the thing is, my best friend's daughter came to this country from Libya, and she had been in England and had done her leaving cert, and like you, came here and couldn't get into third level because they didn't accept the qualifications. So she had to go back and do the fifth year and sixth year, like you.
Oh,
She got into Laurel Hill and she
oh,
did fifth year and sixth year in Laurel Hill and went on to do science. And she's just about 2 years younger than you, but she's doing computer science in
oh,
UN. But I admire you and her
thank
for
you.
coming back and coming into fifth and sixth years. Not easy.
Yeah, well, because for me, language was not a problem because in Kenya we speak English and Swahili, so
Yeah,
it
the
wasn't a
writing might be difficult, was it? Did you find the
the
writing of it different and difficult?
well for me what was difficult is I did all the subject that I did were not something that I did. So like I did art, I never did art before. I did construction and engineering as classes, which I've never done that before too. And then I had history, which history was so different from our history. Like every country has its own history. Like,
Yeah.
and then English was all about poems, which is also something I've never done before. Math was the only thing which was similar. but everything else was new, and home economics, which was also something I've never done before. But I did it fifth and sixth year. Now we had a very good help. Like our teachers were so helpful. Like they made sure you understand what you're doing. And me being from an African family, or anyone who's from an Arab African family, will tell you like you always have to bring the best results. So we need even when you bring a B, they'll be like, no, you can do better. You need an A. Like so.
Is that part of, do you mind me asking, is that, because I've heard other teachers saying that children that who come from, say, Nigeria and African countries, the families, there's a huge emphasis on education and results, and they really aren't happy with a B or an A2. They're striving for their children to be the best. Is that the same with? Was that the same with you?
It is. Like I think that worked well with me because I am that person who is very competitive. Like I always want to be the best of myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was okay with me. But sometimes you be like, complaining like, oh, this I failed this because it was very hard, and my dad would be like, well, you can do better than that. So like you're like, you should understand my perspective as to why this I couldn't get the marks that you want. But you always get pushed to get the best as you can.
And that's good. That's good. You mightn't appreciate it, Rahima, at the time, but afterwards, years later, and you're looking retrospectively, you say to yourself, I'm glad my dad was like that. I'm glad he taught me not to accept okay. Not to accept mediocre. Reach for the stars, and if you only get halfway there, at least you've tried.
So I'm grateful for that. But when I did fifth and sixth year now, everyone in my family tried to talk to me into like getting out of engineering. They're like, can you do maths? My uncles, my aunts, they call me and be like, can you not do the engineering side? Can you do gynecologist? Can you be a doctor? Like all of them wanted me to be a doctor or like a gynecologist. And they're like, there's less female doctors, so you can do that. I'm like, no, there's enough. I think I'm okay. I will go the other side. I also had a guidance counsel. No, a career guidance.
Career guidance counselor.
Yeah. He was supportive, but at the same time, he was like, this is a very rough path. Like it might not be what you want, or like it might not be how you expect it to be. It might be rough, and there's no female on this side. And I was like, I know, but I'm ready for that. But I just have to do it. But then at the same time, my family is trying to pull me on the science side. So, and then I had a teacher who was a mentor for me, assigned for me. And she was like, you can do more research about engineering and then get into engineering. If you don't like it, you're still so young to go to another career. Yeah. So don't just give up because you're told it's hard. Just try it first. And then if you don't, then yeah. And then our engineering teacher said I think she was the head of engineering and science, something like that in LIT, Maria Kine. She's a lady, and my engineering teacher was like, the head of that department is a lady. So how can you not be an engineer? You can't be that. So you just have to make sure this is the right way you want to do it. And if it's not, then you're not old, or even if you're old, like you can change anytime you want to change.
You can always change and become the doctor down the line, or the gynecologist down the line. If in 10 years time you say to yourself, oh God, I should have been a gynecologist, I should have been a doctor, I should have been a scientist. You can always choose to do that later on. Life is a continuous journey of discovery and education. Education doesn't end in your 20s.
It never. Like you don't have a limit for it. Anytime it can work, and anytime you want to change, you can change. Anytime you want to find a new path, it might not be even an education, it might be just a new skill or something, a new hobby. I mean, we put the time limit to ourselves, but there isn't really time limits.
I mean, most of my college education was as a mature student. In my 30s, I decided, to go back and do what, having done all my life what I wanted to do. I suddenly became academic and interested in study. And people have their own time.
Yeah,
Everything happens in your own time. And right
does.
now is your time to be an engineer. 10 years' time, you could be a lecturer in engineering.
True.
And then you could branch into something off that and do a master's in something completely different. Or you might always be an engineer. That might be
Yeah.
your calling in
Your
life.
call, yeah. Yeah.
Why did you choose LIT as
Now,
opposed to UL or any other college? I know LIT has an amazing tradition of teaching engineering.
yeah. So when I did 6 year in U3, you couldn't do higher level maths. So you could do ordinary level maths, and UL doesn't take student who doesn't have higher level maths. And apart from that, is UL was too big for me. I guess it was like so many people, and I think it was I wasn't really going to achieve as much as I could if I was in LIT, like, and
smaller classes.
Yeah, and I didn't want to travel out of Limerick. Like my parents are here, like, so I prefer being in Limerick. I think in 2016 December, I have a family friend who was graduating, and his wife took me with them to the graduation in LIT, like, and I talked to the president of LIT, and that was in 2016 November. And I was like, I'm finishing 6 year this year, so 2017 I'm going to join your college. And I was like, yeah, you're welcome, you can do that. And I was so excited that he was very welcoming. But also in 2017, I lost 3 people who were very close to me, like my granddad and my 2 grandmas. And it was a hard time, a tough time for us. And our business had flopped. Like it went from like 90 to 5%. So it was
What was your family business?
It was just a grocery store. So when we moved from, because my dad used to own like, he had like 3 restaurants and 2 cafes in Hungary. Then we moved to here, and everything there had to be closed, and we had to open a grocery halal shop.
Sure.
And it wasn't like a good business, and it wasn't even a good income for us, because we, like, our income when we came was, let's say 90, it went back to 5%. And sometime I could go the whole week to school in 6 year with not even €1, except in school they used to provide food for us. So like I will be okay because I used to go to school. My dad takes me to school, then I eat the food at school, and then when I come back, I go to the grocery store till around 9. Then we leave to come back home. Like, so
it's a good system. It's a good system that we have in this country of providing food for children in school to ensure that every child is fed, that no child goes hungry.
Yeah, and we used to get paid. I used to get paid in Utrecht every Friday. But like our family at that time was struggling so much, so that money by Sunday will be finished, because we have to pay all these bills. We have to pay electricity, we have to pay all other things. So on Monday I'll go back again having no money. But again, I didn't know what I could do with that money anyway, because I have the food that I need. And I walk to school, to the grocery store, and then my dad takes me home at night. My dad and my mom both used to work at the grocery store, like, so we used to work all together. And so it was okay for me at that time. Like, it didn't bother me. I mean,
Did you find that the financial hardship that you saw your parents struggling through in order for you to have a good education, that is what, in a sense, drove you to? We all have things that drive us. Some of them are negative attitudes towards us, others are positive attitudes. Um, Sometimes somebody can say something really negative to you, and you can use them as almost a mental picture to say, I'll prove to you that I will succeed, or in spite of you, I will succeed. Did you feel that your parents suffering financially to try and despite it making sure that you had a good education was what drove you to succeed in your chosen career?
it might be a big part, because now I know my parents were wealthy before we moved to Ireland.
Yeah.
But my mom was a nurse midwife in Turkey, so she used to get paid well. And then my dad has his own businesses in all the restaurants and all in Hungary. So like they had a good income, but the reason as to why they moved to Ireland is because of the language for me. So Hungary, the language was hard for me to study, and Turkey was the same. It's not English, and I'm used to English and Swahili. So they moved here
They
because
made huge sacrifices to get you here to an English
exactly,
country.
yeah,
And I suppose in many respects, Ireland is considered the best country to learn English in, because we tend to pronounce every syllable and every vowel, and we tend to speak much slower than a lot of countries. So it's easier to learn English here in
yeah.
Ireland than any other country. But that must have been an enormous sacrifice for them to
It
make
was.
that journey over.
It really was, and it was very stressful for us because I know my dad was used to have money in his pocket. He like most of the time when we were living in Hungary or something, the minimum money you'll get was in his pocket will probably be 500 euro. That will be the minimum. So he had good money. And then when we came here, he could work without even a euro in his pocket. So like I know they sacrificed so much for me. And all I wanted was like I have to prove that the sacrifice just didn't go to waste. I have to be the best I can be for them,
Mm.
because I have to make them proud. And also they were afraid that engineering might not be for me. So at the same time I have to prove to them that I'm going to be successful in engineering too. So
Mm.
you don't have to worry. And your sacrifice didn't really go to waste, because I will be successful in that way. And it probably took a year of me in college before my dad really thought of it like, okay, this can be a good career for you.
Mm.
Like he was still thinking like, no, it wasn't like he was being non-supportive. It's just he was scared that it might not be the right decision, because as a parent you'll always be afraid of what your child is going to do. As will that help her life or will it ruin her life? Like, so I think that has really made me be like I can do it. And also when I started college, everyone, I mean the whole class was boys. I was the only girl in my class.
In secondary,
In a,
for your leaving cert.
no, in my leaving cert for engineering classes, I was the only girl, yeah. But for all the other subjects, we had other girls too. But all of them used to go to biology instead of construction, like, or engineering. So I was not the only girl on engineering. I had my best friend with me, but on construction, I was the only girl. But then when I joined college, I was the only girl since when we started first day. So everyone in my class was boys, and they were all Irish boys. So there wasn't any other mixture. We had one guy who was taking few classes. He was repeating few classes who was Nigerian, but the rest, all of them were just Irish like.
But that must have been incredibly helpful for your grasp of Irish English. how people speak in English in this country. You were completely immersed with Irish people. There was in that class, so that should have been helpful for your English, for practicing the English language.
Well, I was already okay with English, but it's just, being honest, we didn't even used to talk for first year. Like, it was just, I was the class rep, so we used to talk about classes, or like just what's inside the class. After we finish classes, everyone is on their separate ways, and I never used to see them. And then we became close later on, second year, third year. But then at first it was very hard for me, because uh, I think they looked at me like, I think the first week of college, every time I used to enter the class, they used to look at me like, "Are you in the right class?" Like, it doesn't seem like you're in the right class. But then, and sometimes a lecturer used to come and be like, "Hey lads," I'm like, "I'm over here. There's a lady here too, so it's not."
Lads in this country can be women or men. Everyone. Yeah, we say, "How are you, lads?" And it doesn't mean boys or girls. It's in general. We call girls lads as well.
Oh, well, yeah. I know some lectures used to say like, hi lads and ladies.
Yeah, so it's generalization, and people don't get us sometimes in this country. We can you got a group of girls and boys coming into the room, and you'd say, "How's it going, lads?"
Yeah.
It's just a generalization.
I didn't do that.
But what was I going to say to you, Rahima? Yeah, as I say, my friend's daughter, she was ultra driven as well, and she still is ultra driven. And I wonder, is it because she came to this country? Okay, her mother's Irish. Her mother was my friend since we were 4 years old, and she just happened to marry Mohammed, and 30 odd years ago. But Rania got 5 president awards from the university. Every year she got the President's Award, and that's a great achievement. But it's and I just think it is probably because she came back here and had to push. She had to apply herself like you to do everything in 2 years, almost a 5 years study in 2 years.
Yeah. I think it might be because of the sacrifice and all, but also I think it's also because we are always taught to be our best. Like, make sure your best is really your best, not just your layer. Like,
and you can't do any more after that. If you get the results you get, but you can't do any more once you've actually pushed yourself to the limit. But you're finished completely now in college.
Yeah, I'm working now.
And you're working. What was it like when you went out into the workplace? Did you have your job secured before you finished? Or I know that with UL, say for instance, Rania is working out in Shannon but that job will be there for her next summer as well, and they get these their job placements. Were you placed in this job?
No. We now, for my course, we didn't have a work placement. It's 3-year course. It's level 7, so it's ordinary degree like. So we don't have 1 year or how many months for work placement. And I tried to work during the summer, but it's really hard for people to give you summer time job because it takes 6 months to be trained. So summer's just 2 to 3 months. Like, you really wouldn't get it. But I think because I was part of Engineers Island Thomond Region Committee, I go to so many events. Like, all the events that we have, I will all go to all the events, all the meetings, and that's where I met so many people. I know a lot of directors of almost more than 50 companies. I know like senior engineers, and being honest, as much as people say you have to have skills, you have to have this and that, most people yeah, most people look at it will take you because of the network too. Like because sometimes they wouldn't really know you if they haven't seen you in all the events or in meetings. If you go to events or meetings, that's where you meet people, and that's where you create your network, and that's where you
It's almost like a kind of an audition or an interview process without having to interview,
yeah,
because people are seeing Rahima and outside of work and how you engage with them and how you're interested in your subject. And
yeah,
before, and when a job becomes available within the company, they immediately have Rahima in their
yeah,
heads, and they think, oh, that would be perfect job now for Rahima. I might see if she's interested. It
yeah,
saves you as well having to go for an interview because they already know you.
yeah. Like they will obviously have to go through all the process again of interviewing you and all, but you have a high chance because they have met you outside work and they have seen how you're so interested in engineering. Or apart from college, what else do you do? Because college, studies is just probably like 50% of
Yeah.
it, while you have to do the rest. Like how do you take part in your community, or like as an engineer, what do you do apart from college? Do you do something else as an engineer apart from what you're doing in class? So I think that helped me. Now I met a lot of companies, and I had applied for many companies, and I had a lot of people who I knew from different companies.
Mm.
But I was, since first year when I knew about Punch, it was my dream company. It was the
Very
only
renowned. It's a very renowned engineering company, Punch.
company. Yeah, and everyone who I met from Punch was so good. Like they were so nice. They like now I've met people who, whenever they see me because of how I look, or because of my scarf, I guess, or because I'm a lady, they wouldn't really treat me very nice unless they know. Not, I mean, they won't be rude, but they won't be that excited to talk to me or
They
something.
will be friendly. They won't know how to approach you.
Exactly, yeah.
And
And
that's understandable, I suppose, because people are afraid, I suppose, that they'll get the cultural norms wrong, and that it might be okay for just say a man to come up and talk to Rahima, but when they see you talking to people, you've automatically broken down that barrier, and they know they can actually approach you and talk to you,
yeah,
that the scarf is irrelevant, that the scarf is just something you choose to wear.
yeah,
It doesn't make you who you are, you know.
yeah. There was someone who I really respect and I really adore. But the first time we met, it didn't go well. And he was a big engineer. Now, he's someone who right now I look at him with so much admiration. But we were at a site visit, and some were talking to me, some people were not. Now he's someone probably in his late 60s, and he wasn't talking to me, but he saw other people talking to me. And again, every event, every site visit I go, I'm the only one who is not white or who has a scarf. Like, so he was sitting actually opposite of me while we were having our lunch, and he saw people talking to me, and he was talking to other people, but not really to me. And we were sitting directly to each other. And he said later on, I probably after we had our lunch, and he said, excuse me, I'm sorry, please don't get offended that I'm not talking to you. And I said, sorry, what do you mean? And he said, I assume you're a Muslim, right? I said, yeah. I said, yeah, because I saw your scarf. I said, yeah. And he said, well, uh, I've learned like Muslim ladies should not should not fool
Commu-
around.
Communicate with men.
Yeah, no, there was a word that he used. I don't know why I can't remember it right now, but it's like fooling around, or like messing around, like with men who are not their husbands or brothers or something. And I said, well, we are professionally communicating. We're not fooling around. So that's totally okay. And he said, oh my God, I didn't know that. I thought you're not supposed to talk to anyone
I'm
who is
not fooling
mad.
around with you. I'm just working with you.
Yeah. And I was like, I thought maybe you're totally not supposed to talk to male who are not in your family. And I was like, no, that's totally okay. We can talk as long as we're not fooling around. We're just talking, and this is pure professional, and there's boundaries. Like, and he was like, oh my,
Everyone has boundaries. Everyone should have boundaries.
yeah,
Everyone should know have sensible boundaries. And
yeah,
I think people make generalizations, and it's not always, everything isn't always as clean, as clear cut as people think.
yeah. Now the ones who are around me, like, they were not really young, but probably in their late 20s or 30s. They were mad about it. They were like, how come you didn't react? Like, you didn't get mad like the way he talked to you, like. And I was like, what's the point of me getting mad? He's just not educated enough to know that part. If I get mad, then he will be more scared to talk to women like us who wear scarf. But that was a learning lesson to him. And we became good friends at that there, like. And
Yeah,
when he heard I started working at Punch the first day, he came to Punch and said, congratulations, they are very lucky to have you.
yeah.
And that was meant so much to me, because I was like, if I overreacted at that place,
You
and
can't overreact. I think especially when you're working in what is a male dominated profession,
yeah,
engineering, I think people have to, could be wrong, but I think people have to develop, especially women have to develop a kind of a toughness, an ability to kind of let a lot of things go, because I think men think very differently than women anyway, and I think generally people don't mean to offend. I
yeah,
think it's
I
just
think it's
a lack of not knowing. He may have
it,
wanted to speak to you but didn't know, if I speak to her, will it be considered inappropriate?
yeah, it's all I say is
And
I
you
say
broke
this,
the barriers.
yeah, and I say this to so many non-Irish or like black or Arabs and ladies. I always say, like, please don't get offended when someone says something rude or something, maybe them being, for most people they see it as they're being racist. Sometimes it's not being racist, sometimes it's the lack of knowledge, they just don't know it,
And
like.
as well as that, here in this country, we have a tendency to saying things that could be misconstrued as being one way or the other. But they're usually, we have a strange way of phrasing things sometimes that can be taken anyway, but they're never meant in a derogatory way. We have a kind of, I suppose, a black sense of humor, when a dark sense of humor, when we tend to say things that might be construed by other people negatively, but yet they're not meant that way by the Irish. We have our whole, we almost have a new form of the English language in this country. So
True.
it's different. But what was the most difficult thing, that walking into Punch the first day? Were you just absolutely thrilled when you got that job?
I was, and I was praying to get that job. And I knew the senior engineers in that company who are my fellow committee members in the Engineers Island. Well, I didn't know they were senior engineers, but when I joined that company, I was like, okay, they're my bosses now. But they were just my friends when we were in the Engineers Island Thomond Regional Committee. But I was happy and I was scared because, first of all, I started working in September, which no one was working in the office. There was probably like 5 people working in the office. So everyone was working from home. And then the first day I worked downstairs where it was 4 people working there. And the second day I walked upstairs where it was only me and my mentor. So it wasn't, I felt safe. That's one thing I can say for sure, is I felt very safe. But it was, I didn't know what to really expect, because I was already told like what you're doing in college is literally nothing what you're going to do in
Yeah.
workplace. So different.
Mm.
And it's exactly what it is. For me, I joined as a beam technician. So it was on the only drawing side. I wasn't doing anything. I did desktop study for probably one job or two jobs, but it's not what I do, and it wasn't anything that I did in college. It's all drawing, and the drawing that I did in college was probably 5% of what I'm doing now, like the minimum. So it was it was a good it
Do
was a
you,
good experience.
do you use AutoCAD and all
Yeah,
those type of CADs? Yeah.
yeah,
Because I did interior design, and we had to do interior drawing, technical drawing with AutoCAD.
yeah.
And
I use that a lot now. I use AutoCAD and Civil 3D now. In college we used to use them, but we used just to do the minimum of them. Like there's so many other properties or things which you can use in AutoCAD that I didn't know when I was in college.
I so wish I had actually paid more attention with the AutoCAD, but the mathematics, I'm not a maths person. I'd be very creative. And the design side of it and the drawing side of it, I loved. And I went on and did a degree in the art college because I was good at drawing and because of drawing. But the AutoCAD, and I love computers, and I'd be very quick at computers and design stuff on computers. But I so wish, it's my biggest regret that I hadn't paid attention to AutoCAD, because I was actually good at it, but I just convinced myself I wasn't. And I think it's very it's a fascinating program.
It is,
It's fascinating.
and it's really growing. Like,
Yeah. And I mean, it's used a lot by designers to design, say, interior of homes. And I suppose you'd use it as are you a structural engineer, civil
no,
engineer?
civil.
Yeah. So you'd be using AutoCAD all the time.
Yeah, I use it 7 hours every day. Like it's from 8 to 4. That's all I use is AutoCAD and Civil 3D. So yeah, I mean Civil 3D is just same as AutoCAD. Is just more into contours and all, like, so, but it's the same thing. Like it's just part of it.
So you're obviously a creative person as well.
I can say so a little bit.
Yeah, because you have to be.
All about practical things, like.
Yeah. But Jesus, it's not easy to have the responsibility of a building on your shoulders. The responsibility of knowing that if you get just even a number wrong, that building could collapse.
And it will be on you. I remember we had a lecturer in third year, and he was just fresh from. He just retired, I think, as an engineer, but now he's a lecturer. And he said, "I'm going to give you two big advice as you work as a civil engineer. Is one, make sure you use less cost as you can, minimum cost as you can, but at the same time make sure you don't kill anyone." So those two have to go together. Like you don't kill anyone.
Minimum cost, but not at the cost of
Lives, yeah. But now for what I do right now, I'm not really in charge of any of that. So I draw what's already designed, and it's not really my part on the safety side, which I feel like maybe right now I'm safe, but it's something that I look into. Like I want to grow to design myself and not only to tech design. And I have a great mentor who in Punch, and who is still my mentor, and he says like you can grow very quick, but you just have to keep on pushing yourself and not be ready. Like, there's people who are like, I'm okay with just being given the work that I'm given. After I finish this work, it's okay. But he said like, if you want to grow and you want to design, then you have to do work outside of what you're given too. So to like grow your skills, like to upskill yourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would prefer to go into the designing myself and having my own drawings. But right now, I'm learning a lot.
You're learning a huge amount, and you're learning it at the best, for the best, or one of the best, certainly, anyway. But were your parents absolutely thrilled with your award and with your
They
achievement
were, they were, because
for them?
it was, well, we were again, we had a committee meeting, and I remember when we had that committee meeting, I was having a very bad headache, and I wanted to shut the computer because I was so tired. And then they mentioned about me winning the award. At first, I was like, what did you just say? Because I was literally zoning out of how I had a very bad headache. And they talked about it, and I was crying because I know I work hard and I know my parents take me to all these events. I don't drive still because I'm scared, and I didn't like the theory part. Now I've been driving since young, but I mean since 16, but I haven't got the license yet. So my parents.
Tanya got hers last year, her license just in 2020.
Oh,
I took her out for a few lessons as well. Probably not the best person to take anyone out for lessons, but I did, but only for a few. But she went for lessons
oh,
professionally, and yeah, and she got her license.
yeah, I got my learner's permit now already. So I'm going to get my license soon. But now that time when I was winning the award, my mom is in her own room. My mom is doing social social care. She's
Social.
in college. Yeah. So she's in first year of college in LIT doing social care. My dad was downstairs. So I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was just crying. And then I went on and I told my mom and my dad, they were all in tears because I knew it meant so much to them because they saw how much I used to overwork myself. Like sometimes I used to have college from 9 in the morning till 6, and then after 6 I will go to events or meetings till around 9, get back home, do my projects or do my assignment till around 12 or 1, go to sleep. So I think it really um, made them happy because they were like, finally someone is seeing uh, how much work you put into it. And that meant a lot to me too, because it really shows how much people appreciate what I'm doing, or just to be recognized for something. It really did mean a lot, because sometimes I used to think like maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not, that way. Like,
But it also showed, I suppose, in a sense, it showed your wider family, your aunts, your uncles, your parents, that this really was what you wanted. It wasn't.
yeah,
It wasn't something you just manufactured. This
yeah,
is the career you wanted, and this was the career you were willing to work towards it being the best at.
yeah. I also saw Limerick posted my picture probably this Saturday, and
Oh,
my whole family was so proud about that too. Like it made them so happy. And again, I'm the first grandchild, so everyone under me is being pressured to be like, you have to be like Rahima, you have to be like Rahima. It's kind of a pressure on me too, because I always have to be my best, because I know I have people who are looking up to me, like,
yeah,
but it's a good thing too.
yeah. Well, Rahima, it was an absolute joy talking to you today.
Thank you so much.
I never thought, I was thinking, you know, what am I going to talk to Rahima about engineering? Because I know nothing. I told you my aunt, my father's sister, her husband was an engineer in Sellafield.
Yeah.
For years and years, over 30 years, he was hired while he was here on honeymoon here in Ireland. It was all cloak and dagger, because all secret, the type of work he was doing, because it was nuclear, because he was in Sellafield and that. And my aunt, to the day he died, never knew what he did, because he couldn't talk about his work. He couldn't go home like a civil engineer and talk about, well, I designed this building today, because it was all to do with government and things like that. But I never had any desire to go down the engineering route. Why, I don't know. Maybe it was because it was all mathematics. And I convinced myself I was rubbish at mathematics. And I thought, how am I going to talk to Rahima about engineering and that? But it was so easy to talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I keep saying, like, I always want to have my own show where I talk to people, because we're now creating our own podcast for the Engineers Island Thomond region, which my main aim for that is to interview people, different people. Like, I saw you won an award too. Like, so, like, literally, there's so many things that we can learn from someone else's life.
Well, you should keep in contact with me, because maybe there's a possibility that you could do a show with us.
Hopefully, hopefully.
And, do a show on engineering.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much for this. It was such an honor to be here, and thank you for making it easy for me too.
Not at all. It's salam alaikum, the same as hello and goodbye.
Yeah, it's basically just means peace be upon you. So
upon you.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I actually know in Arabic, and I say it all the time. Salam alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Yeah, we say that before and after too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.